My parents stole a house my grandmother bought me and gave it to my brother. I'm 28. I work as a warehouse supervisor at a distribution center about 40 minutes from where I live, pulling doubles most weeks because rent doesn't pay itself, and neither does the student loan debt I'm still chipping away at. I live in a 400 square foot studio apartment in a building that was probably nice in 1987. It smells like the curry the guy downstairs makes every night, not bad, just constant. My windows don't open all the way. The shower pressure is a joke, but it's mine in the sense that I pay for it every month. I eat a lot of ramen, the fancy kind from the Asian grocery store when I'm feeling good about my paycheck, the 25-cent packets from the dollar store when I'm not. I drive a 15-year-old Civic with a cracked windshield I can't afford to replace and a check engine light that's been on for 8 months. The radio only works on AM stations. I thought this was just how life was for me, the disposable son, the one who didn't need help because he was sturdy. That's the word my mother used my whole childhood, sturdy. Like I was a piece of furniture that could handle being moved around, scratched up, left in the garage. Christmas dinner at my parents' house. Standard suburban spread, ham, mashed potatoes, green beans, rolls from the grocery store bakery. My brother Tyler was there. He's 26, works in marketing at some tech startup, lives in a nice 2-bedroom condo downtown with parking and a gym. I'd been to his place once for a housewarming. Granite countertops, balcony with a view. The kind of place I'd need to work 5 years of doubles to afford a deposit on. I'd always assumed he could somehow make it work on his entry-level salary, that he was better with money than me, or got lucky with timing, or had roommates he never mentioned. My parents were there, of course. Dad's a claims adjuster for an insurance company. Mom sells real estate, though she's been less active the past few years. They live in the same house I grew up in, 4 bedrooms in a neighborhood that's gotten nicer as I've gotten poorer. And Grandma Ruth was there. Grandma Ruth has money, real money. The kind that comes from oil industry investments that my grandfather made in the 60s and 70s before he died. She's 78 now, sharp as a knife, doesn't waste words or suffer fools. She looks at you like she's reading a balance sheet and knows exactly where you're off. We were halfway through dinner when she asked me how I was doing. I gave her the usual answer. Getting by, working hard, can't complain. She set down her fork. The sound it made hitting the plate was louder than it should have been. Are you still living in that studio apartment? Yeah, it's not great, but it works for now. Hopefully I can save up for something bigger in a year or two. Her eyes narrowed. Cole, what happened to the house I bought you? The table went quiet, not gradually, instantly, like someone had hit a pause button. What house? I said. I looked at my mother. Her face had gone white. My father was staring at his plate like it contained instructions. The house in Riverside, Grandma Ruth said. Her voice was very even, very controlled. The 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house I purchased for you 2.5 years ago. I have the deed right here in my purse. Well, I have a copy of it. Why aren't you living there? I felt like I'd missed a step going downstairs. That split second of free fall before your foot finds ground again. I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody ever told me about a house. Grandma Ruth opened her purse, an expensive leather thing that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and pulled out a manila folder. She laid papers on the table between the mashed potatoes and the green bean casserole. Documents, legal documents with my name on them. I picked up the first page, purchase agreement, dated 2.5 years ago. Property address in Riverside, about 15 minutes from where my parents live. Purchase price, $1.2 million. Buyer, Ruth Windsor. Intended recipient, Cole Brennan. I picked up the second page, deed transfer, my name at the top, notarized, official. Someone want to explain this to me, Grandma Ruth said, not a question, a command. My mother started crying, actual tears, the kind she's always been able to produce on demand when she needs sympathy. Mom, we can explain. I'm listening. My father cleared his throat. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the wall behind me at the family photos from when Tyler and I were kids. We thought Tyler needed it more. He was just starting his career, and Cole's always been good at making do with less, and we had power of attorney for some paperwork at the time, and we transferred the deed to Tyler. We thought it was the right call for the family. The words took a few seconds to land. To translate into meaning. You stole a house from me, I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. You took a house my grandmother bought me and you gave it to Tyler. We didn't steal it, my mother said through her tears. That's such a harsh word. We made a family decision, without telling me. You would have said no, because it was mine. You've always been so independent, Cole. You've always been fine on your own. Tyler needed more support. He's more sensitive. He needed a house that was bought for me. My father finally looked at me. We did what we thought was best. I turned to Tyler. He'd been silent this entire time, staring at his plate, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Tyler, I said, did you know about this? He looked up slowly. Met my eyes for the first time all night. I found out 6 months ago. 6 months. He'd known for 6 months that he was living in a house that was meant for me. 6 months of seeing me at family dinners, hearing me talk about working doubles, watching me drive up in my piece of shit Civic with the cracked windshield. 6 months of saying nothing. 6 months, I repeated. You've known for 6 months and you didn't tell me. I didn't know what to do, he said quietly. They said you didn't need to know, that it would just cause problems. I stood up from the table, grabbed my jacket from where I'd draped it over the back of my chair. Cole, please, my mother started. I'll be in touch, I said. Through a lawyer. I walked out, got in my car, drove home to my studio apartment that smells like curry and has windows that don't open all the way. Sat on my bed that's also my couch because there isn't room for both, stared at the wall. A house. My grandmother bought me a house 2.5 years ago, and my parents took it. Used paperwork I'd signed in good faith, paperwork they'd told me was just in case anything happened, and they needed to make medical decisions, and they transferred property out of my name without telling me. I've spent 2 years eating ramen and working myself into the ground while my brother lived in a house that was meant for me. And he knew. For 6 months he knew and he said nothing. I don't even know what I'm asking here. I just needed to write this down somewhere. Needed to see it in words on a screen to make sure I'm not insane, that this actually happened, that my parents actually did this. My parents stole a house from me. A house worth over $1 million. A house I didn't even know existed until my grandmother asked why I wasn't living there. And my brother, my younger brother who I used to protect from bullies, who I helped with homework, who I lent money to when he was broke in college, has been living there for 2 years while I worked doubles to afford rent on a studio apartment. Is this real? Is this as insane as it feels? Or am I overreacting to some family decision I don't understand? Because right now I don't understand anything. Update 1. Grandma Ruth called me the morning after Christmas. 7 a.m. Her voice was sharp, awake, purposeful. Meet me at my lawyer's office at 10. Bring the documents I gave you. I went. The office was downtown, 40th floor of a glass building with views of the entire city. The kind of lawyer who has actual art on the walls and charges $600 an hour just to think about your case. Grandma Ruth was already there when I arrived, sitting in a leather chair across from a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and the expression of someone who's seen every variation of human selfishness. This is Adira Rowan, Grandma Ruth said. She's been my attorney for 30 years. Adira, this is my grandson Cole. We shook hands, her grip was firm. I've reviewed the preliminary documents your grandmother provided, Adira said, gesturing to a folder on her desk. I need to ask you some questions. She walked me through it methodically. When did I sign the power of attorney? What did my parents tell me it was for? Did I understand I was giving them authority to make legal decisions on my behalf? They said it was for medical stuff, I told her. In case I was in an accident or something and couldn't make decisions. They said every adult should have one, that it was just being responsible. Did they tell you it could be used for property transfers? No. Did you authorize them to transfer any property out of your name? No, I didn't even know there was property in my name until 3 days ago. Adira made notes. Then she pulled out more documents. The originals this time, not copies. The purchase agreement for the house. Dated October 15th, 2.5 years ago. Ruth Windsor as buyer, Cole Brennan as intended recipient. The property listed as 847 Riverside Drive, a 4-bedroom house in a neighborhood I'd driven through before and thought was way out of my league. Bank records showing a wire transfer of $1.2 million with FOR Cole BRNNAN in the memo line. Emails between Grandma Ruth and my mother. I read them slowly, feeling something cold settle in my chest. From Ruth Windsor to Meredith Brennan, October 12th. Meredith, I'm purchasing a house for Cole. He's been struggling and working himself into the ground, and I have the means to help. The house will be in his name. I'm wiring the funds Monday. Please don't interfere with this. From Meredith Brennan to Ruth Windsor, October 13th. Mom, I understand you want to help, but have you considered that Tyler might benefit more from this kind of support? He's still finding his footing and Cole is so independent. He'd probably feel uncomfortable accepting such a large gift anyway. From Ruth Windsor to Meredith Brennan, October 13th. This is not a discussion. The house is for Cole. Do not involve yourself. No response from my mother after that. Until November 2nd, 2 weeks after the purchase, from Meredith Brennan to Ruth Windsor. Mom, I need to tell you something. Robert and I made a decision. We transferred the house to Tyler's name. Cole didn't need it as much and Tyler was really struggling with his rent and we had power of attorney, so we just took care of it as a family, you understand. I stared at the email. Read it 3 times. Did my grandmother respond to this? I asked. No, Adira said, because your grandmother never received it. Your mother sent it to an old email address that Ruth hadn't used in years. She must have known it wouldn't go through. Grandma Ruth was sitting very still in her chair, hands folded in her lap. I didn't know what they'd done until 3 days ago when I saw you in that studio apartment and asked where you were living. They covered their tracks, Adira said. They used an expired email address to create a paper trail that looked like communication but wasn't. They used a power of attorney obtained under false pretenses. They transferred property without the knowledge or consent of the intended recipient. This is textbook fraud. The word hung in the air. Fraud, a crime, not a family decision, a crime. What do you want to do about this, Cole? Adira asked. I thought about my studio apartment, about eating ramen for dinner most nights, about the check engine light in my car that I couldn't afford to fix, about working doubles every week just to keep my head above water, about my brother living in a 4-bedroom house with hardwood floors and a backyard. I want the house, I said. I want what was supposed to be mine. Grandma Ruth nodded once. Then we'll get it back. Adira drafted a letter. Legal language, formal and cold. It explained what my parents had done, cited the relevant laws they'd broken, and gave them 48 hours to voluntarily transfer the deed back to me or face criminal charges for fraud, theft, and abuse of power of attorney. She sent it certified mail. I watched her seal the envelope. What happens if they don't comply? I asked. Then we file criminal charges, Adira said. And they will very likely face prosecution. This isn't ambiguous. What they did is clearly illegal. They'll transfer it, Grandma Ruth said. Meredith won't risk a criminal record. We left the building. Grandma Ruth and I stood on the sidewalk, December wind cutting through downtown. I'm sorry, she said. I should have followed up. I should have checked on you. I assumed you were living in the house, that you were settled. I got complacent. It's not your fault. Isn't it? I trusted your mother to do the right thing. I should have known better. She looked old suddenly, tired, like the past 3 days had aged her. Thank you, I said, for doing this, for believing me. You're my grandson, of course I believe you. She left. I drove back to my apartment, sat in my car in the parking lot and waited. My mother called 6 hours later. Cole, we need to talk about this. Her voice was shaky, tearful. We got a letter from some lawyer and it's saying we committed crimes and this is insane, we're your parents. You stole from me. We didn't steal, we made a decision for the family. Stop calling it that. You used a power of attorney I signed for medical emergencies to commit fraud. You transferred property out of my name without my knowledge or consent. That's theft. That's a crime. Tyler will be devastated. He's built a life in that house. He has friends in the neighborhood. He's involved in the community. I've been eating ramen in a studio apartment while working 80-hour weeks. I'm not particularly concerned about Tyler's social life right now. Her voice shifted. Harder. So you're going to destroy this family over money? You're going to send your own parents to prison over a house? You're the ones who committed a crime. I'm just asking for what's mine. We were trying to help. Tyler needed support. Did you ask me? Did you tell me Grandma bought me a house and ask if I wanted to help Tyler? Or did you just take it because you knew I'd say no? Silence. You didn't ask, I said, because you knew I'd say no because it was mine, so you just stole it and hoped I'd never find out. Cole, you have 48 hours. After that, Grandma's lawyer is filing criminal charges. I hung up. My father called an hour later. He was quieter than my mother, more resigned, like he'd already accepted what was coming. Your mother's very upset, he said. I don't care. We thought we were doing the right thing. Tyler was struggling financially, and you've always been so independent, so capable. Independent because I had to be, capable because nobody helped me. You trained me to need nothing from you and then you're surprised I survived. He didn't have an answer for that. We made a mistake, he said finally. But does it have to end like this? Does it have to be lawyers and threats? You made the choice when you stole from me. I'm just responding to what you did. Cole, please, 48 hours, I said. Tyler texted me that night. A long message about how he didn't ask for this, how he only found out 6 months ago when he was looking for property tax documents and saw the original purchase agreement, how he didn't know what to do, how he confronted mom and dad and they told him to keep quiet because telling me would just cause problems. He wrote, I know I should have told you. I was a coward. I chose my comfort over doing the right thing. I'm sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but I am. If you want the house, take it. I'll move out. I won't fight this. I read the message 3 times, then I wrote back, you knew for 6 months. You watched me work myself into the ground and said nothing. You're just as guilty as they are. He didn't respond. On the 47th hour, 1 hour before the deadline, my parents' lawyer called Adira. They would transfer the deed. They wouldn't fight it. They wanted this resolved quietly. Adira called me with the news. They'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow afternoon. The house will be back in your name by end of business day. That's it, I asked. They just give up. Your mother doesn't want a criminal record. Your father doesn't want to explain to their friends and colleagues why they're facing fraud charges. They're choosing self-preservation. What about Tyler? He has 30 days to vacate the property. That's standard. I sat with it. The house would be mine. The thing my grandmother had meant for me 2.5 years ago would finally be mine. But I couldn't stop thinking about what my mother had said, that I was destroying the family. Maybe I was. Or maybe the family was already destroyed, had been destroyed 2 years ago when they decided I didn't deserve what was meant for me, and I was just the first one to notice the rubble. Update 2, I'm writing this from the house. My house. The one I didn't know existed until 2 months ago. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, hardwood floors, a backyard with fruit trees, kitchen with granite countertops. Master bedroom bigger than my entire studio apartment. Tyler moved out 3 weeks ago. Didn't take the furniture, it came with the house, just took his personal belongings and left. I haven't spoken to my parents since the deed transfer. They've called, I don't answer. They've sent emails, I delete them. My mother has been calling family members, telling them her version of events, how I'm ungrateful. How I'm tearing the family apart over money. How Grandma Ruth poisoned me against them. Some relatives believe her. They've sent me messages about forgiveness, about family being more important than material things, about how I need to be the bigger person. I've started blocking numbers. Grandma Ruth suggested I see a therapist. She gave me the name of someone who specializes in family trauma. I've been going twice a week. Turns out there's a name for what my parents did to me my whole life. Financial abuse, parentification, golden child syndrome. The therapist asked me to make a list of times my parents prioritized Tyler over me. I filled 3 pages, front and back. When Tyler needed a car for college, they bought him a new Honda. When I needed a car, they gave me $500 and told me to find something on Craigslist. When Tyler wanted to study abroad, they paid for the whole semester. When I wanted to take a summer course, they said I should get a job to pay for it. When Tyler graduated, they threw him a party and invited 50 people. When I graduated, they took me to Applebee's. I'd always assumed this was normal. That families just have favorites. That some kids need more help than others. The therapist said this was abuse. That what they did with the house wasn't an isolated incident, it was a pattern. I'm starting to understand that I spent 28 years being told I didn't deserve things, that I was sturdy, that I could handle struggle. That Tyler needed more because he was sensitive, because he was special, because he had potential. And I believed it. I walk through this house sometimes and I feel like an imposter. Like someone's going to knock on the door and tell me there's been a mistake, that this isn't really mine, that I need to leave. But it is mine. Grandma Ruth made sure of that. She had her lawyer put it in a trust that only I can access. My parents can't touch it. Tyler can't touch it. It's protected. She told me she'd known for a long time that my parents treated me differently. She'd tried to help in small ways, birthday money, Christmas checks. But they'd always intercepted it, always said they'd put it aside for me and I never saw it. So she bought me a house, made sure the paperwork was ironclad, made sure my name was the only name on everything, and my parents stole it anyway. I asked her why she waited 2 years to say something. She said she didn't know they'd done it. She'd assumed I was living here. When she saw me still in that studio apartment, still working doubles, she started asking questions. "I'm sorry I didn't catch it sooner," she said. I told her it wasn't her fault. That she's the only family member who's ever actually looked out for me. She's 78 now, she's not going to be around forever, and when she's gone, I'll be alone. Tyler sent me a text last week. Said he's in therapy too. Said he's starting to understand how messed up our family dynamic was. Said he wants to make amends. I haven't responded yet. I don't know if I want to. Sometimes I think about forgiveness. About whether I'm supposed to be the bigger person, let it go, move forward. But mostly I think about how I spent 2 years eating ramen while my brother lived in a house that was meant for me. And I think, some things don't get forgiven. Final update. Grandma Ruth died 3 months ago, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal. She was 83. I was with her at the end, held her hand while she took her last breath. She looked at me and said, "You're going to be okay." And then she was gone. The funeral was small, me, a few of her friends from the oil industry days, her lawyer. My parents came. I didn't acknowledge them. They sat in the back and left before the reception. The will reading was a week later. My parents showed up in their good clothes. Tyler came too, looking nervous. Grandma Ruth's lawyer read the will. I'm paraphrasing, but the relevant parts. "To my grandson Cole Brennan, I leave my entire estate, including all financial assets, property holdings, and personal effects. Total value approximately $53 million. To my daughter Meredith Brennan and her husband Robert Brennan, I leave nothing." They know why. "To my grandson Tyler Brennan, I leave nothing. He was complicit in the theft of property intended for his brother and remained silent for his own benefit." My mother made a sound like she'd been hit. The lawyer continued. Grandma Ruth had included a letter. He read it aloud. "I spent my life building wealth so my family would never struggle. I gave my daughter every advantage. I trusted her to carry forward the values of fairness and integrity that my husband and I held dear. Instead, she stole from her own son. She used legal documents obtained through deception to commit fraud. She prioritized one child over another to such an extreme degree that it constitutes abuse. I will not reward this behavior with inheritance. I will not enable her to continue harming Cole. My estate goes to the grandson who survived her abuse and remained honest. The grandson who deserved better and never received it. This is not punishment, this is justice." My father stood up and walked out. My mother sat frozen, tears running down her face. Tyler looked at me. "Cole, I don't," I said. The lawyer handed me documents, keys, bank account information, property deeds, $53 million, $53 million. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour trying to process it. My parents hired a lawyer to contest the will. They claimed Grandma Ruth wasn't in her right mind, that I'd manipulated her, that she'd been coerced. The case was thrown out in less than a month. The judge's comments were scathing. Something about parents who commit fraud against their own children have no standing to question the mental capacity of a woman who ensured justice was served. They've moved to Arizona, sold their house here. My mother still sends Christmas cards to relatives explaining that I'm an ungrateful son who destroyed the family over money. I don't correct the narrative. The people who matter know the truth. Tyler got sober about 2 years ago. He sent me a letter, a real letter, handwritten, 10 pages long. He took accountability for everything. Acknowledged that he'd known the house was stolen and chosen his comfort over my well-being. Said he understood if I never wanted to speak to him again. We meet for coffee sometimes now, once a month. It's awkward and careful and we don't talk about our parents, but he's trying, actually trying. I started a foundation with part of the inheritance. It helps men who have been financially abused by their families. We provide legal assistance, therapy referrals, emergency housing. We've helped over 3,000 people in 3 years. I named it the Ruth Windsor Foundation. Every Christmas I hang Grandma Ruth's photo above my fireplace. Some people might see it as dwelling on pain. I see it as remembering that the truth is always worth fighting for, even when it destroys everything you thought you knew about family. The house in Riverside is still mine. I've lived here for 5 years now. It doesn't feel like an imposter's home anymore. It feels like justice. People ask me sometimes if I've forgiven my parents, if I plan to reconcile. I don't think about forgiveness. I don't think about reconciliation. I think about the fact that I spent years believing I deserved less, that I was sturdy, that I could handle struggle while others couldn't. And I think about how Grandma Ruth saw through all of that. Saw a grandson who was being systematically diminished by his own family and decided to do something about it. She gave me more than money. She gave me proof that I mattered, that what happened to me was wrong, that I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. She gave me permission to walk away from people who hurt me, even if they were family. I don't know if that's forgiveness or something else, something quieter and more permanent. But I know I sleep well at night. I know the foundation helps people who were in the same position I was. I know that when I look at Grandma Ruth's photo, I don't feel pain. I feel gratitude for the only family member who ever actually saw me, and I feel peace, because the story moved forward, because I built something meaningful from the wreckage, because she was right. I am okay.